Hey guys, how we doing? So I'm here at Brighton Karting again today, and we're here for Club 73 this time. I've not entered this championship before. It's my first time taking part. So the format is slightly different. We just get one 30-minute race, so it's a bit more hit or miss in terms of results. But yeah, we're also starting from the back because it's our first time. The grids are determined by your championship position, and so I'm starting at the back because I have no championship position, and that would be unfair to then let me start on pole just for my first time. So I'm actually starting 11th in the 12 kart heat, but that's all right. We'll see how we go. The classes are mixed, so I don't know any of the other drivers apart from I know Matt Bardell is in my race. He's the only person I know. I know him and Dan that are here, and other than that, I don't know anybody else. Never raced against any of these drivers, so it'll be a learning experience. It looks nice and sunny and dry now, but it has been absolutely hammering it down most of this morning and overnight. So the track is currently wet. I'm in the second race. The first race is out now, so hopefully the track will dry out a little bit, and we'll see how the karts are today and everything. I get 5-minute practice, not much time to get used to it, but it is what it is, and it'll be fun, I'm sure. Hopefully we'll get lots of overtakes, lots of good racing, and we'll see what happens. And yeah, it's just going to be interesting to check out Club 73. I'm interested in taking part in this one next year. So yeah, good learning experience, find out what it's like, how it works and everything. But yeah, we'll see you after the race. Okay guys, so here we are at the start grid for my race in Club 73. This is my first time, as I said in the intro, so I'm starting P11. I guess somebody was a late entry that bumped me up from P12 to P11. And yeah, we're familiar with the starts at Brighton from when we came up for SRK, so it's a 2-lane rolling start. Can't pass the guy to your left or right, depending on which side the grid you're on, the person in the position in front of you, until the line. As you can see, it's wet. It's quite wet. The sun's out, but the track is still wet and it's very slippery. Practice was quite tough, so it's just going to be a case of who adjusts to that grip quickest, and we'll see if there's any opportunities to be taken early on in this race. As we see the pole sitter is a bit nervous, he's gone a bit early there. Yeah, so looking forward to a half-hour race around Brighton. As you can see, we've got 34 laps in that time. So let's see what progress we can make. The rolling start begins, and the guy in front of me is pulled away super slowly. No idea why he hasn't closed up. There we go. We start to close up now, but he's leaving a large gap, and it's getting a bit bumpy in the middle here. But yeah, again, he's just not got out of this last corner and just let everybody go, and I'm behind him, so I can't really do too much. And then 12th place has overtaken me, but we're going to stick to the inside and hope that gets us something. No, again, the guy in front was super cautious into that corner, and we've lost out because of it, which is kind of frustrating, but it's a long race. And there we go, we're going to send it around the outside. We just got more confidence at this point, feeling the grip better, and we're going to make that move stick fairly easily there. And now this is quite a bundle in front on this slippery track, so we'll see what opens up. We're going to look up the inside. Yeah, there we go, it's all 3 wide through there, but we're going to file back into that 11th position, but then it opens up and we just send it up the inside, and yeah, there's no way for him to turn back into us there, and we get better drive out onto the grid straight. Now, breaking into this corner for the first time was quite scary, not going to lie. There was a lot going on there, and as we're back involved, battling with 2 more people, we get up another position just before the end of the lap there. So we gained 2 positions. We lost 1, then gained 3, so we gained a net 2 positions in that lap. A nice wide line through this turn 4. The inside was still super slippery at this point. And this corner was scary. You see how early I turn in and how nothing happens for so long. I was so cautious on the accelerator, and there we see that little contact ahead has allowed us the inside line, and we keep to the dry bits of the track, force the other driver onto the wet bits of the track, and so we get better drive out there, and that's another nice easy move done, and we're up to P8. So yeah, we're making good progress. We're happy with this. 2 laps, 3 positions net from our grid position, but then we're going to lose 1 there. But has he sent it too hard? No, he's made that one stick, unfortunately, but we get better drive out. He did send it too hard, he got on the wet stuff, and we're back up the inside. We're side by side there, and somebody's spun on the outside, so we're made another 2 positions in that lap. We're up to P7. We thought by looking up the inside there, but it wasn't quite open. and so we had to back out of that. That cost a little bit of time. We've gone for the inside line, but it's cost us on the way out. I thought I'd try it, but it was still a bit too slippery in there. And a nice wide line here, because the grip was on the outside there and the corner was cambered nicely to slingshot you round. Bit of a test of faith that one. It doesn't show on the camera, but the front end just wouldn't grip up, so you turn in super early and just pray it gripped up before you went straight on into the barrier, and luckily it has done so far. And then the last corner, we see, is very wet on the inside, so we try and stay wide here and get a good drive out, but we don't there. We have to ease up at the apex because we went in a bit harder than the guy in front. But again, nice entry into this turn 1, turn 2 section. Going to get on the power out. We're not going to get enough drive coming out. We're going to slide a little bit. And then this turn 4 was really quite tricky in these conditions, because you go up the hill, and then obviously as you crest the hill you're starting to think about braking, but it's wet and you can't quite see where all the puddles exactly are, so you're kind of just committing to it before you can see it and hoping that you haven't chosen incorrectly. But we seem to be settling into a pace here. Slightly defensive line there. I assume someone's at my right shoulder, and then we see a guy in front goes wide, gets on the slippery stuff and doesn't get very good drive out, so now we're very interested. Get a good drive through there. We're going to line it up into turn 10. We're going to look at it, we're going to go for it, but we're not going to quite get the drive mid-corner, and we kind of just slide into him there. Nothing untoward from either of us there. It's just racing in the wet, isn't it? You turn in sometimes and you don't have any grip. Didn't hurt either of us too much. We lost a little back to guys in front, but we didn't wipe each other out or anything, so all is good. Back to turn 4. It looked a little bit dry on the inside there, so I'm going for gripping up in there, but it's costing me on the way out. You can see it just pulls that couple of kart lanes back out on me on the exit, but I'm feeling good through this section under the bridge, and then the hairpin after. I'm really avoiding that inside red and white line and just keeping the grip up, and the outside red and white line, the curb in there. That was just an absolute skid pan. And then this corner was another test of faith. You just had to kind of ease off the throttle, turn in, and hope that it gripped up. Eventually, it took forever to grip up, and then we see the opportunity. It's just opened up in front of us. Can we get it done? We're on the inside, but we might get worse drive. Well, we're still on the inside. The drive's about equal, and then we've got the inside line for this one, and then that's it. That's the move done. Just straight line it through there. He's not going to get better drive than me out of turn 1 on that wet section of the track. And we're up to P6 on lap 6. So we've made up 5 positions from our starting position in 5 laps. So this is great progress so far. We got a little bit of a gap ahead now, so we can settle down and see where our pace sits. See if we can catch these guys up and make some more positions and see what comes to us as the race progresses. It is sunny and fairly warm, and obviously we're blasting around this. There's 12 of us blasting around this, so we are drying the track up relatively quickly at this point. So this was a real test of just learning where the grip was, because it was changing from lap to lap, and where the dry line was, and where you could get good drive, and where you could take a bit more of a risk, and where you just had to kind of accept that you were going to go slow. And this 1-2 section here was tough, because you wanted to get on the power super early, but if you got on it too early you just slid, and that compromised all the way down to turn 4 here. As we see, we missed the apex, but that's fine because it's super slippery on that inside. And we are slowly gaining on this group of 3 karts in front. I think we're faster than all 3 of these, so we're really hoping that we can catch all of them. There's a long way to go in the race. Obviously only lap 7 now, and they seem to be using some of those curbs a bit more than me, but I don't like my exit there. It wasn't ideal. And there you see just how long I'm turning right before anything happens into that chicane. Turn 10, and there's a bit of a battle going on ahead, so we're going to get very interested once that heats up and get involved with that. A little wipe of the visor, bit of spray getting onto the visor there. I also had my dark visor on today, so that was good in terms of the sun and the reflection of the sun off the wet track, but it also meant that some parts of the track were hard to read because they were dark grey or black, whether they were light or wet, and it was just kind of hard to distinguish at times through the tinted visor. But I've managed to keep it pointing forward so far, and we've caught up to these guys. We saw we got on the red and white stuff there. It just gave him a little jolt of a slide, but he's just far enough ahead, so we're gonna stick to our line. We're very tight there. Look over the shoulder and there's somebody behind us, so I guess we're cutting them off from trying to get through. And yeah, nice line through there. We see the two guys up the front are also still battling away whilst we're trying to hold off this guy behind us. I think this was the guy that spun on lap 2. Yeah, there he goes, just straight through. Didn't want to lose too much time because he was the guy that spun. He was clearly fast and he caught me in no time. So now what we're going to do is we're going to try and stick to the back of him and try and follow through these 3 drivers in front as he overtakes them. That's the plan. Whether we can execute or not, we'll see. And that was alright coming out there. We ran a bit wider than we had done previous laps, but we carried more speed, so happy with that. Coming up under the bridge, we see the guy behind gets a contact warning. Yeah, that's going to be a running theme for a little while, but we'll get onto that whinging in a bit, I'm sure. And we see he makes a move into the right hand over the chicane in front, and we couldn't quite capitalise on that, but we're going to do so down into turn 10. No, we had to back out of that because the wet stuff on the inside would just compromise me too much, so that didn't quite come off. I didn't manage to capitalise on the move made ahead. He's gone to make a move up the inside and then had to brake quite tight as he's realised that wasn't the faster line, and I've lost out again. I've just got my line wrong as well, and instead of following the guy in red through and catching up to these guys, I've just lost them a little bit. But see if we can get a good drive out of turn 4 and down into 5 and 6 here under the bridge, and we see somebody takes a little bit too much power and spins out. And the guy in front waving his arm moaned about his kart, but they have kart control here, so when that guy spun and the yellow flags came out, they cut everybody's power. So he's whinging about his kart being down on power, but everybody's was. Obviously wasn't paying attention during the briefing when they told us that. And you can see I've caught right up to him in that. He's spent too much time whinging about his kart. I think we're going to see down the straights here he's going to start whinging again. Yeah, you're looking down at his kart, kicking his accelerator, and we're going to make a move. He's not focusing on the racing, he's focusing on the whinging. We focused on the racing, and we've got that move done up into P5, and so yeah, I'm happy with that. Made a good couple of moves so far. P5 is decent from P11. I was kind of put into this class and this final by Clinton, the organiser, based on my previous experience, which isn't much. So it was the 4th of 5 finals, the D final. And it seemed a decent fit. I think the bottom half of the grid I was definitely much faster than in these conditions. As you've seen, I've cleared the first half of the grid quite easily, and I'm not the most confident in wet conditions. In fact, only the second time I've raced in wet conditions. So yeah, I'm happy with that, but I'm also clearly slower than some of the people, such as the guy in the red suit making the move up ahead there, who has managed to spin, lose a load of time to me, and still come back and overtake me within about 5 or 6 laps. So that's maybe just the way the championship points work out. Maybe he didn't do some rounds and drop down some finals. That is a tactic that I heard people talking about in this championship, because of how the grids are organised. It's based on championship standing. So if you have a couple of good rounds, you kind of don't turn up to one, which is counterintuitive to me to a championship. But yeah, you don't turn up to one and then you drop down into the easier finals and have some easier competition to race against. It's a little bit of a funky quirk of the way the grids are worked out in the championship runs, but that's how they do it. It seems to work for them. So yeah, I'd rather do the full championship myself, because I'd rather have those dropped rounds available for if I made any mistakes or got wiped out or anything like that. But I can see the theory of not turning up to some events, but as I say, it's counterintuitive for the organisers for people to not want to turn up to events. But yeah, I don't have any alternative, so yeah, that's how they run it. It seems to work for them. And we've passed a couple of laps there, on to lap 13. Long old race, this one at half an hour, so I'm afraid you can have a lot of waffling from me in this full version of the video. I will have a highlights version as well, which will be linked in the bottom of this video. If you don't want to watch the full half an hour and listen to me waffle on for ages, you can check out the key points from the race, check out the best overtakes and points of interest. There's quite a few coming up still, and I hope you don't mind me waffling away too much and yeah, passing some time for you. But you can see we're just slowly reeling in the driver in front
just putting in some solid laps. The racing line is starting to dry up, and here at Brighton it was kind of a weird one because the tarmac is like, it's really new and it's super well laid. The racing line in the wet is actually pretty close to the dry racing line because the rubber is absorbed into the tarmac more or something. I don't know. It was explained to me, but I don't know the technical science behind it. Basically, because the tarmac is so nice and so new, the racing line isn't super slippery once it does rain. There's lots of grip in the tarmac, and so you're still mostly on the racing line for a lot of this. Turn 10 you're not, because that puddle has formed, but that kind of still is the racing line in the dry. You want really late apex. You're not going right onto the red and white stuff on the inside because that's really slippery, and you're braking really early into this corner. But weirdly, these red and white lines weren't slippery. I don't know if they're painted on directly on the concrete or a different paint or something, but they didn't make you slide as much as the rest seemed to. And turn 4 here was at the bottom of the hill, so the puddles kind of formed there. And then again, this right-hander here at turn 6, the puddles this didn't dry up very well at all the way through, because obviously just any surface water is just going to run into that area. You see the kart head puts an inside tyre on that red and white curb. You see they just slide wide, and how much better drive we get for this entire section based off that difference in line and that little bit of slide. So in these wet conditions, just one little, it can be the tiniest mistake, just on the power half a second too early, or a bit too hard on the power, or one wheel on the painted parts, and you lose 2, 3, 4 kart lengths down the next little bit straight. Really is reliant on not making any mistakes. My whole aim for this entire race, as we see, I've started to reel right in onto the back of here. My whole aim this entire race was just do not spin. If I keep it pointing forwards and I'm going a decent pace, as we've seen already, a couple of other people spun. I've picked up a couple of positions that way. Right, one of them was faster than me and came back eventually. But as long as I keep it pointing forwards and on the grippy bits, there's got to be opportunities available. And as we see at the moment, nearly halfway into the race, we're in P5 of 12, so we've made up 6 places from our starting position. I'm well happy with that at this point, and we're gaining on the guy in front, so we're looking to take P4 here. You can see I've started to drop back a bit. I think I had a little bit of a poor section in the middle section of this lap, and also I think there's somebody starting to catch me up behind at this point, and so I'm having to start consider defending as well as attacking. Not defending yet, but I'm having to consider the driver behind when I am attacking, so I can't just all out attack, make a move and lose too much. So we see a quick check over the shoulder there. Don't see anybody in shot, but I know they're there at this point. We see how long I've got the full right lock on the steering there into that corner still, even though it's not fully dry, it's not fully wet, it's kind of in that weird in between. And you will see kind of from now the racing line starts to dry up. You see the middle of this part here where we are now is starting to dry, and I'm starting to take a lot more of that curb on the left and try and set up more of the regular racing line. It seemed to do me well mid-corner, but hasn't quite worked out for the whole corner. But then this turn 1, 2, I'm braking quite early and just getting turned in and keeping the kart under control. See the guy in front goes sideways coming out, and even though I had a slower entry, I've just got so much better drive out, and now we're right on his tail. We're interested here. I'm going to look at the inside. He's going to slide a little bit, I'm going to slide a little bit, and we're all going to slide. But we've managed to get a similar drive out, and we've stuck to his tail. We're going to have an opportunity under the bridge. We're going to look, we're going to look, we're going to look. We're going to take to the inside, see the opportunity isn't there, and then return to the racing line to get a nice wide entry into this one. You see he runs wide, but then I slide a little bit mid-corner. I missed the slippery stuff, but I still slid a bit mid-corner, and then just completely missed the apex on that one. You can see the light grey concrete through the wetness now in the middle of that chicane. So we're really trying to find that patch of tarmac at all times. Anytime there's a little bit of a dry bit, we just want to get on that so that we can get our power down and get a good drive through that section. And we'll see in turn 4 as we come down the turn 3 kink here and into turn 4. It's dry on the inside there, so it's very tempting, as I did, to get your inside wheels there. But you can see I lost out coming out, and that was a habit that I didn't get out of. It kind of cost me quite a lot this race in hindsight. Kind of sticking to that inside because it looked dry, I thought I could gain some through there, but as we've seen, I'm losing a couple of kart lengths. And I slide mid corner again and get on the red and white slippery stuff on the outside when I'm on the power. But we're a bit gaining confidence. I'm even taking a bit of the grass on the inside there. We're really going for that regular racing line on this turn 10. We see the nose of somebody up the inside of turn 10 there getting interest, so we're going to go defensive into turn 1. Just middle of the track, not fully defensive, but just let them know that that door isn't going to be left open. This is, however, going to let the guy in front pull away, and we see he tries to switch back there, but that's not on, and then he nudges the side of us as we're coming down there, and then he rams me into the corner. See a bit of arm waving, and he's not going to concede that position despite having loaded the hell at me, so he can have the inside curb that's wet and slippery. This was the start of a spell of about 5 or 6 laps of just constant loading into turn 4. Funnily, it only happened into the corner where there was no marshal. It's amazing how that tends to happen, isn't it, where turn 10, for example, prime loading spot, there's a marshal stood there watching. No loading at all. Turn 4, another prime loading spot, there's no marshal post. I get loaded there every lap, about 5 or 6 laps in a row. Funny that. But we're going to see, obviously he cost himself a bit of time in the end, but he's right on my tail there. As we come down the hill, I'm going to get into my braking spot. I'll stick it tight to the inside, and then we see I just get a shove at the end. The end isn't so bad as the entry, but it's still pushing me offline and then trying to force his way up the inside. It's subtle, it's not showing on the camera too much because of the hyper smooth, but it's definitely pushing me offline, and not to mention it's just getting in my head, it's just irritating me, it's frustrating me, it's making me not trust that he's not going to just ram me off the road at some point, and it's making me doubt my braking points. So at this point I'm driving worrying that I'm going to get hit. So I'm bracing before the corner, and it's obviously compromising my drive. So even if he isn't pushing me offline fully or ramming me, he's still affecting my race through contact and gaining an advantage because of it. And the persistent nature of it, and only in the spot where marshals can't see, is the problem. And you see there, you see I put my hand up because you saw, even with the hyper smooth, my head go back. And then he's still going to try and stick his head up, his nose up the inside, so we can have that inside curve again where all the water is. He's still trying to gain from it. I get that the conditions are slick and it's tough, but he's still trying to gain from that contact instead of accepting it's illegal contact and just staying behind and not compromising my line on the way out and trying to overtake me because of it. This driver did actually come up to me after the race, because we did have a good battle at points. He came up to me after the race and basically said that he didn't see anything wrong with his actions, and he wondered why I was going wide, to which I responded that I was going wide because you were pushing me wide, and also we're racing the wet line, so you've got a wide entry. As we see, I think I've put a bit of a gap on him for that lap. No, there we go, there's the nudge and the big shake of the head. It's not so bad on the way out, but it's just the persistent contact. Just every time into turn 4, it's just unsettling my kart, it's unsettling my focus, and unsettling me. And it's clearly a tactic because it's only happening where the marshals aren't. And as I say in the conversation after, he didn't see a problem with the contact. He thought it was completely acceptable. And I mean, we all know that loading into corners is not acceptable at all at any point in a go-kart race. But I had a word with Clinton, the organiser, about it afterwards. Obviously he couldn't see it because way up at the top it's impossible to see this corner, and yeah, we had a good chat about it after, but it's still ruining my race currently. I was right on the tail of the guy in 4th and looking good to overtake him, and now he's a good 5 or 6 kart lengths ahead, and we've lost 5-6 laps to this contact, and I think I've managed to shake him now and got through that lap safely, and trying to refocus at this point, just kind of put that behind me, and not let it affect the rest of my race. It's happened, I've kept my position, made my feelings clear, and hopefully we won't do it again. But we're heads down now. We're just going to try and close down on the guy in front. And you see he takes too much into turn 4, and he's just spun and giving us P4. So that's what I mean by just keeping my head down, focusing, keeping the kart pointing forwards, not doing anything stupid. Or I might not be the fastest on the track, but equally I'm not spinning around all over the place and losing positions left, right and centre. And here I am, sat in P4 with 9 laps to go, feeling really good about it, feeling comfortable, adjusting to the lines. We can see this line through the chicane and into turn 10 is dry now. Turn 10 is mostly dry, but I get on a slightly wet inside, which forces me wide onto the very wet outside, so that wasn't ideal. This is still very damp and slippery, and hard to get your braking and your turning right, but this is grippy there on the apex but not coming out. You see this is the very wet section, but the inside line is dry there. And again, we're going to take that inside line where it looks dry, and my front right actually grips right up on that curb which is dried out, and it just slides the back end out, which wasn't ideal. And then we see this is still very slippery. The outside's dry, but you have to go through a puddle to get that wide, and you don't want to be that wide anyway. This racing line here is very dry. You could go pretty good through there. I know it still looks very dark, but in comparison to the patches next to it. And then this is now full throttle as you would in the dry. Just go for it, believe, and it grips up. Racing in conditions like this is a lot of fun. I'm not very experienced in it, and I'm not great in it, but it's so much fun. It doesn't come across on the video because of the hyper smooth and stabilization and everything, and just the loss of the speed in video, but you're just constantly on the edge. Every little touch of the throttle, you feel like the kart might just go from under you and spin. You're really having to wait to get onto the power, so it's just a game of patience and control. And doing it for half an hour is exhausting. You're just trying to focus this whole time. You just got to take a really defensive line. I think someone's right on my tail, and I'm not 100% through this section yet, and I think that's costing me at the moment. But we'll see how we go around turn 10. Yeah, we're trying to hug it tight to block off any. Yeah, definitely more defensive there. But we're not going to go defensive into turn 1. We're going to take our normal line and get that done. And turn 2. Start lap 28. Only 6 laps to go. We're sat in P4. This is a great result so far for me. So I don't want to lose it now. And then we see again another snap into turn 4 as it grips up on that inside. It's just so hard to get that right. I think I should have been taking the wider line into there, but with the loading from behind and with having to defend, I didn't want to leave that open for someone to lunge up the inside of it. As you see, I'm slightly defensive there again, just to block off the right hand turn of that chicane. Coming into turn 10, we're going to turn in a bit earlier. I probably should have taken a wider entry. And yeah, is that going to cost me drive? No, he's not alongside, and we got to turn in at our line. We leave space, and he's not there. So we're all good. We survive another attempt, and no contact. I mean, this is the section where we had good racing. I don't know if he realised, learned, decided he wasn't going to get through by cheating. Or by trying to get into my head, realised I'm not going to get spooked or scared into just getting out of his way because of contact. We actually had a really good, clean battle at this point. And yeah, it was really enjoyable. I'm defending the inside there. And he's definitely fastening me through this chicane / turn 10, so that's where I'm losing out. But I seem to be better coming out of turn 4 and down through 5, 6 under the bridge. And then the hairpin after the bridge, those kind of corners I seem to be really good at. In this turn 1-2 section, I was hit and miss. Some laps like that one seemed really good. Other laps I was sliding out of turn 2 and just losing too much. Again, I'm trying to take the inside here, and I'm probably trying to take it too much, but I need to be defensive there. And look over the shoulder, or glance to the side. Coming into turn 6, we're going to try and hold it there. We're going for the racing line this time, and we see he just slots his nose up the inside and gets the drive coming out. Unfortunately, that's P4 conceded, and you can just see now how much faster he is through this chicane. than I was taking. He just had a bit more confidence in the grip there than I did, and I turn in too early to turn 10, and I just lose a good 3 or 4 kart lengths. And yeah, that's disappointing to lose P4 in the last 5 laps, but we'll see what we can do, see if we can get our heads down and focus, see if we can get some fast laps in and close that gap. It might be possible, but he's caught us and passed us there, so I'm going to have to really focus and get on with it. He gets on the slippery stuff, it hurts him a bit, but he's got enough of a lead that I just catch up a kart length or 2, and I think he's probably going to pull that back away here. Well, I've seen him, when he overtook me, go full whack through that chicane, and I've gone for it as well, but then I mess up turn 10's entry and I just lose that distance again. I was really costing myself in the entry to turn 10. Watching this back, it's quite obvious that that's where I was losing a lot of time, and this turn 4, so both of these long sweeping right-handers in these wet slippery conditions, I was trying to take too much inside early on. I was being too greedy on the entry, and it was costing me on the straights afterwards, I think. But I'm happy with my pace, I'm happy with my racecraft. I've made some good overtakes. I've gone from P11 to P5 so far. I don't think I can moan at that. It's been a good race, it's been an enjoyable race, apart from the period of the 5 or 6 lap period of contact there that really frustrated me for a bit. And was disappointing. Came to this championship being told it was super clean, no contact, and lots of bad mouthing of SRK and the contact in the pit lane area. So to have a race with prolonged contact was quite disappointing. But I know this guy was new to the championship, new to outdoor karting, he's only driven indoors, so it seems to be a theme of people that drive predominantly indoor. I'm noticing that they think that loading and contact is acceptable. Certainly in the area in Bristol, avoid team sport because of that. But yeah, so that was disappointing that my experience was maybe soured a little bit by that. But we've had a good race, we're up to P5, we're not going to catch this guy in a lap and a bit, and you can see some blue flags being held out as the leaders are catching up to us. And I take a look over my shoulder to see how far they're back. They're nowhere near me at this point. I'm not going to, you see the last lap board there on the right hand side as well. So we know it's the last lap now, we know we should be shown blue flags, but I'm not giving up a position to P6 behind me. I'm not going slowly in comparison to the driver, the leaders. It's not like they're going to come sailing past. Regardless of what I do, I'm driving close to their pace. So I'm certainly not slamming the brakes on and getting out of the way, because I'm not holding them up at this point. You see me check over both shoulders, just make sure I know exactly where they are. I know they're good 3 or 4 kart lengths behind at this point. And I know coming out of turn 10 we've got a nice long straight, so I'm going to have a good look over my shoulder here, and you're going to see just how far he's a couple of kart lengths back. I'm like, go then, but he doesn't, and so I wave him no, and then he just tries to send it on me, and he pit manoeuvres me, and Matt comes through and takes the win. Neither of those were people I was racing against, unfortunately. They were P1 and P2, and he can tap his helmet all he likes. It was his own dumb move, so I hope he's tapping his helmet at how silly he was being, because I left plenty of space. I gave him an opportunity to overtake me. Once it was clear it was too late and I had to turn in, there was still a kart width on the inside. He just did not execute it very well, and a wave of the arms and a shake of the head. But at the end of the day, he ruined his own race, he didn't ruin mine. So contact is always frustrating, but it didn't cost me anything. So I guess for once somebody got their instant justice for their own silly moves, and it didn't cost me any positions. So I took P5 overall. Again, super happy with that. I enjoyed my Club 73 experience. I think I'll go through it more in the outro, but looking out for next year, but there's some things I'm not sure about. Okay guys, how we doing? So we're in the car again. I once again got too distracted chatting to people at the track to do the vlog outside.
But yeah, I had my race, obviously, as you've seen. I finished P5, which was pretty decent, I think. Started P11, made my way up through the field. Obviously, there was a spin ahead, which helped me out some. There was quite a lot of contact in the race, as I'm sure you've seen in the video. There's quite a few instances of being loaded and stuff like that, which wasn't too fun. But yeah, I'm happy with that result overall. I came in expecting nothing. Had no idea the drivers I was racing against, etc. What kind of caliber they were of. But I'm happy to move from P11 to P5 in wet/changeable conditions. So it didn't actually rain all that much whilst we were on track, but it had been raining a lot beforehand. And as you probably saw, the track changed quite a bit over the course of the half an hour race. So just adjusting to that was quite an interesting experience. I was a little bit slow adjusting to the drying parts. I think I probably could have been faster in the mid part of the race. But to still come up to P5 from 11th on the grid after a poor start as well. That start was very slow. Yeah, I think the guy in 9th ahead just didn't pull up as much as he could have, and that bumped me back down to 12th place, which wasn't ideal in a 12 kart heat. But yeah, we got our head down, raced a really good race. I think I was happy with my pace and how I got on. I really enjoyed it. Spoke to Clint, the organiser. He seems a really nice guy. The championship was really fun. I'm still kind of confused by how the races are, the grids are set and everything, but it was good fun. Some really good racing in there. Obviously there was the last lap incident with the leader. As you will have seen, I was showing the blue flags and I look over my shoulder going down the straight and he's 2 or 3 kart lengths behind me, if not more. And I kind of waved to him like, well, if you're going to overtake me, you need to be closer. And then for some reason he tries to send a dive up the inside that was never going to work ever. I don't know if he expected me to just drive out of his way, but that's not going to happen really, is it? I'm not wanting to lose any positions from behind, and he wasn't close enough to me to make that move. So yeah, I think that was just a bit of a dumb move on his part, but didn't ruin my race, thankfully. I didn't lose any positions or anything, and it cost him the lead. So I guess he made a dumb move and he paid the price for it. But yeah, I've had a really fun day. It's great to be back at Brighton as well. They run a really good event, so I can't wait to come back here in the future. And yeah, that'll do it. I think we'll jump into the results and I'll show you those on the screen now. Okay then guys, so here we have the results, and you can see I finished P5. That's confirmed. 34 laps as I got lapped right at the end, and my fastest lap was a 49.098, which wasn't, the top 3 were clearly very out of reach. They were in the mid 47s. 6th fastest, so I guess P5 I did better than my fastest lap suggests it would. It was actually the last full racing lap that I set my best one on, and I gained 6 positions from my start place of 11th. Yeah, really enjoyable. Well, mostly enjoyable race. Obviously the middle section there, that 6 or 7 laps of contact kind of spoiled it a little bit, and the end was a shame. It was a shame of a way to end such a good race. It was yeah, I was at no fault at all in that. I'm comfortable saying that. I've seen the view from Matt behind, and yeah, it was just a bit of a lunge, and it was messy all around. Hopefully Matt will put his video up so you can see it as well from his angle. But yeah, we can see I took a decent finish, P5 in my first outing in Club 73. I'm happy with that. I'm still looking at calendar for next year. I need to check the calendar if it clashes with SRK and any of that stuff. Work out what championships I can afford, because it's a lot of driving. I know it's a half an hour race, so the time on track is pretty comparable to like an SRK round, almost shy of the finals. But I much prefer the 3 heats and then a final based off your positions in the heats aspect that the other championships I've entered into have. It just adds an extra layer of intrigue and excitement. It allows you to race against a mixture of drivers,
and race starts are fun. That's why we do races, and isn't it? We do races to race with people and do race starts, because race starts are when the most position changes can happen, when the most racing happens. So as you saw in that video, even though I was within 4 or 5 kart lengths of someone, or there was someone within 4 or 5 kart lengths of me, it was a lot of driving around on my own. And it just, yeah, it's not an endurance race, and it's not a sprint race, heats, final, layout. It's kind of somewhere in the middle, and it's fine. I just, if you have a spin or something and go to the back, your whole day is ruined. Whereas in the heats and finals, it's much less punishing. Same with if you have an incident with somebody wipes you out, it just ruins your whole day rather than just that one heat, or potentially a final, which is also frustrating in the others. But you understand my point, I'm sure. And it's also a hell of a long way to travel for a 30-minute race. I drove 2 and a bit hours, just over 2 hours to get to Brighton. 8:45 arrival time, and I was in the second race and my start time was 10:45. So I drove 2 hours to wait 2 hours to drive half an hour. I like to stick around for the whole of these things, so I could have left straight after my race, gone home and been home before the end of the event. But that's not why I do this. It's not why I go karting. I go karting to see people, see friends, have some fun, chat to people, promote the channel, all those sorts of things, and just experience it and enjoy it, and get home at reasonable time after the event. So because I stuck around for the podium, because I'd want people to stick around to see me on the podium if I made it, that was another good 2 and a bit hours after my race, and then I had a 2-hour drive home. So yeah, to drive 2 hours, wait 2 hours, race for half an hour, wait a couple of hours, drive 2 hours. It's a lot of driving and waiting. The heats and final keeps you involved and invested and interested the whole day. There's multiple things to discuss with people. I just prefer the heats and final, but I know that's not the way this championship is run. I'm definitely considering it for next year, but it depends on calendar and money. And yeah, so we might see this one back next year. Let me know in the comments what you think. Am I being too harsh on those incidents? Am I moaning too much? I did also put a poll out asking if people rather see this full video or just highlights videos, and it sounds like half of you won't be watching this one. So split about 50-50, so we'll have highlight videos and full videos from now on. So please check out the highlights video as well, and yeah, that'll be much more bite-sized, a 5-10 minute chunk of the race, and yeah, you can see the action points and the highlights in that. And yeah, thank you very much for watching and sticking around if you watched to this point, and we'll see you in the next one.